We break into programming to take you live to Doha. Representatives from the Congolese government and the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group have signed a peace deal to end years of fighting. Let's listen in to the press conference being held right now.
So enhance the process in order to find peaceful solutions through dialogue and understanding in order to put an end to the conflict and also establish peace in East DRC. Over the past months, we have been able, and they were able to make progress in several substantial topics that led to, thanks to the mechanism of September 15, 2025, and led also to the ceasefire agreement signed on October 14, 2025. Qatar reaffirms that the signing of this agreement is only the beginning for a comprehensive and global peace process, and that will be built by mutual respect in the service of the people. The peace agreement will resume. The global peace agreement within this framework will start 8 implementation protocols, 2 of which have already been signed, and also 6 other protocols will be discussed in the upcoming months. This will define the implementation mechanisms, the timeline, and also the chronology of the different processes, and also how to allow humanitarian aid and also to restore and reinstate the state authority, and also the protocol of the temporary peace and security agreements, and also to reintegrate the forced groups into the government, and also to eliminate the foreign forced groups, and also to the return of the displaced people, and also a protocol for social and economic peace, and also the overall reconciliation protocol. Both states will agree to establish an independent committee to be able to implement the peace process, and also to provide recommendations for the recompensation within the framework of the national reconciliation. This committee works will be in line with the Constitution of the Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, the signing of the comprehensive peace agreement of Qatar, that was signed in Qatar, is a decisive moment that will also put responsibility on the shoulders of both parties. In this regard, we reaffirm that Qatar's role is not only to find solutions for all the conflicting points, but also to establish a peace, a long-standing peace for stability on the long run. In conclusion, I would like to thank all our partners who contributed in achieving today's agreement, and I start with Qatar's partner, the United States, and President Donald Trump, and also the efforts exerted by Boulos, the envoy for the Middle East, and for his support to this constructive process. Also, I would like to thank the African Union that also exerted a lot of efforts during the different negotiation sessions, and also the President of Togo as the representative of the African Union, who will also continue to have a pivotal role in the upcoming sessions as defined by the African Union. We also thank Mahmoud Ali, the envoy of the African Union, for the declaration of this peace process, not only here, but also in different conflicts in Africa. We would like also to express our gratitude and thanks for all our international partners who contributed to push forward the process of stability, including Rwanda, France, the United Kingdom, and also the Red Cross Association, and all those who also played a role. Qatar would have never been able to achieve this positive step without the support that we have received from our partners in this regard. We hope that the framework agreement of Doha will establish security and peace in the region, and also Qatar reaffirm its commitment to diplomatic work and also constructive dialogue as an option to put an end to all conflicts. Thank you. Now I give the floor to U.S. envoy and the envoy of President Trump, Boulos.
Your Excellencies, distinguished delegations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start by thanking very, very much Your Excellency, the Honorable Minister Khulaifi, first of all, for hosting us and for all the work that you've done. I would like to perhaps start by thanking the State of Qatar and for their partnership, for their steadfast alliance with the United States. His Highness the Emir, I know His Highness and President Trump are excellent partners, and they've done so much together, and I think the sky is the limit. This partnership has shown how important it is to work in this spirit of peacemaking. We all know that President Trump is a president of peace. We have seen what he has done during his first term. We have seen what he has done during his second term in only just few months. We've seen that within about 8 or 9 months, he was able to resolve at least 8 conflicts. And we all know what they are. And efforts are ongoing as we speak. But this is, some of them are only possible because of partnerships like the one we enjoy with the State of Qatar and with His Highness the Emir, His Excellency the Prime Minister, and the Honorable Minister Khulaifi, absolutely, and the entire team. We know how hard they've worked with us on so many of these files, and we know how hard they will continue to work. Just to give a recent example that is ongoing, Gaza. This was a huge, absolutely a huge achievement for President Trump, but also it wouldn't have been possible without the great partnerships that President Trump has established, which include the State of Qatar, but also many others, Turkey, Egypt, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and many, many others in the Arab world and Muslim world and the international community at large. So this is only a testament of how these partnerships can produce positive results. And as we progress, we are seeing more and more on the Gaza plan, the Trump Gaza plan that is being implemented, that has shown to be so far the right plan. So far it's been quite successful. Of course, there are always some obstacles here and there, but we have to look at the end game. The end game is looking great, and the same thing applies here. We've worked so hard with our partners, the Qataris, with our partners, the African Union, with Togo, and all the others that the Honourable Minister has mentioned, which include France and several others, the UK. We've worked so hard now for several months, and we've achieved so much. So today is a historic occasion. It's historic in many ways. It's definitely, this framework agreement is a starting point. It's a launching pad. It's just the beginning. But we know that the end will be quite good. The end will be quite fruitful. As the Honourable Minister mentioned, this is part of a process. We all know that this process is based on 3 main pillars, and this is one of the 3. The first one was the peace agreement that was signed between Rwanda and the DRC in Washington on June 27th. And the second one is the regional integration, economic integration framework, the RIF, which was only initialed last week, a week ago, by the 2 countries in Washington, and it will be signed by the heads of state very, very soon, in a matter of few days. So that's the second pillar, because we all know that without the without the stability first, you need peace, you need to establish stability, and then you need to achieve prosperity. So for that to be achieved, you need peace. And the third pillar is absolutely an integral part of this process. And the third pillar is what was signed today, this historic agreement between the DRC government and the AFC M23. This is a very important agreement for many reasons. First of all, we all know that a lot of efforts have been put into this, and many have tried for many, many years. But what Qatar has been able to achieve in the last just few months is really absolutely remarkable and historic. This is not an easy conflict. This is a conflict that has cost the Congo millions of lives and hundreds of thousands of refugees and probably millions of internally displaced. And in addition to all the suffering that we've seen and that we continue to see on a daily basis. So it's historic in many ways. Of course, it's a framework agreement. It builds upon the Declaration of Principles, which was signed here on July 19th. And as the Honorable Minister said, it will be continued through the protocols that will form integral part of this agreement. There are 8 protocols in total. 2 have already been done, and 2 very important protocols, actually. One of them is the ceasefire monitoring mechanism, which was just signed by the parties just a few weeks ago. And the other one is the prisoner exchange mechanism. So the 6 that are remaining are absolutely very important as well. In no particular order, the first one is humanitarian, and we expect this to be concluded within days, as the Honorable Minister said, because of the urgency of this matter. And we work with humanitarian agencies on a daily basis. We work with humanitarian organizations on a daily basis, because what's happening today cannot continue and must end. The suffering must end. So we expect this to happen very quickly. The second one is also extremely important. The second one covers the establishment or re-establishment of state authority or restoration of state authority. And that's an integral part of any such arrangement. And this will lead to a lasting stability. In addition to the other 4 that are equally very important, one deals with armed groups and DDR, the other one is refugees and IDPs, which is also a very, very important topic. And the other one is economic reform. And finally, reconciliation, which is absolutely necessary for this to succeed. So in a nutshell, there's a lot of work to be done. In parallel to this track, you have the Washington track, which is ongoing. Work has never stopped. In spite of what you might hear sometimes in some news here and there, most of that reporting is not necessarily accurate. There's a lot of work that is being done, because for each of these pillars, there are a number of mechanisms that were put in place by the parties. Many mechanisms were put in place here in Qatar, and many were put in Washington that have to do with the Washington Accord. And these mechanisms are working. Yes, they were a little bit slow in the first few weeks. Let's not forget that some of them only started about 6 weeks ago. This is not something that started long ago. So yes, people were expecting to see probably some immediate results on the ground, but this is a process. This is, and I've said this several times, this is not a light switch that you just switch on and off. This is a peace process. And there are many, many angles to it. So this will take time, hopefully not too long, but we have to allow time, we have to give the chance for the parties to work through these mechanisms. And these mechanisms include, in addition to of course, to the parties in question and to the United States, they include the state of Qatar, they include the African Union and Togo, and some of them include other members, and others can still be added. So it's extremely important to allow these mechanisms to work and give that a chance. Very soon, the heads of state will meet in Washington. I know we've been talking about that for a few weeks, and President Trump made it very clear that he would like to welcome and host the heads of state concerned, in addition, of course, to the head of the African Union, Togo, and other concerned countries, but above all, as well, our great partner and ally, Qatar, and His Highness the Emir. We will be, President Trump will be hosting them at the White House, hopefully soon. A date will be announced probably in the not so distant future. And this will serve as a launch pad for the entire process, during which time the several agreements will be signed. There will be a reaffirmation of the commitment to peace between Rwanda and the DRC, which is extremely important. But there will also be a number of bilateral agreements. There will be bilateral agreements with the United States, and there will be some bilateral agreements between the two countries concerned, between the DRC and Rwanda. So on this note, allow me to thank once again our great partners and hosts. Allow me to thank very, very much President Tshisekedi for his continued commitment to this process, and President Kagame as well for his partnership and his commitment to this peace process. They've been instrumental, both of them, and they shall continue to move forward with this process. And I would like to thank once again the African Union. We think that the African Union has an extremely vital role to play, especially in the implementation phase. We all know that these agreements are extremely important, and look how hard we've worked to get here. However, implementation is the single most important aspect of this process. And this is where the African Union can play a very important role. In addition to the state of Togo as well, who has played an exceptionally good role and positive role. They've been able to maintain a very good momentum that we have not seen with other coordinating countries, in fairness. They have really played their role to the fullest extent, and we really appreciate that. We would like to also appreciate and acknowledge the committee of 5 former African heads of state who are trying their best. I know that at least 2 or 3 of them are in contact with me from time to time, and they just want to help. We know that the resources are limited and so on, but they're just there to help, and they just want to help. So we really appreciate that. We look forward to the full implementation of this process. We look forward to stability in the Great Lakes region, and we look forward to see the prosperity in the DRC, prosperity that the Congolese people really deserve. The Congo is a very rich country. God has bestowed Congo with a lot of resources, the human resources, huge population, very diverse, very smart people, and a lot of natural resources as well. And this is a gift from God that very few countries have had this honor. So it's now in your hands. We count on you. We are looking forward to this, and we are here to provide all the necessary support We are here to provide all the necessary guidance, and we will not let you down. We have strict guidance from our president, from President Trump, to ensure that this is a success, just like everything else he has undertaken. So once again, thank you very much, and this is highly appreciated. Thank you.
نبدأ بالأسئلة.
Questions. First question from Al Jazeera. The sound from the source is unclear.
الاتفاق هو اتفاق إطاري. هل سيكون هناك مراحل لاحقة خاصة في موضوع البروتوكولات؟ كيف سيتم التفاوض حولها؟ وهل ستكون المفاوضات هنا في الدوحة كما شهدنا؟
Are the negotiations, the upcoming negotiations, going to take place in Doha?
Will there be any mechanisms on the ground, especially between South and North Kivu, to monitor the adherence of both parties to a ceasefire? And is the UNESCO, the United Nations, is involved in any way in the surveillance of the ceasefire? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Regarding this agreement, this is an agreement that defines the priorities and responsibilities of both parties of this agreement. In fact, the purpose of implementing or of naming it or framing it as a framework agreement and a peace agreement for both parties is to pave the way for the implementation of the different peace processes and the protocols. So after this agreement that has been signed today, as I said, there will be 6 executive or implementation protocols that will define clear processes with clear timelines so that it could be implemented on the ground. Whether we're talking about the humanitarian aid or the economic development in East DRC, or even for the restoration of the state authority, all these will be discussed within the framework of the said protocol. So I think the upcoming negotiations will define these protocols, but all these points are already mentioned in the agreement that has been signed today. Whether the negotiations will be in Doha or elsewhere, we haven't decided yet, but as you know, Qatar always welcomes receiving the both parties to discuss this agreement, but we are also open to hold these meetings in different places. So this will depend on both parties' decision.
Yes, the answer to your question is yes to both. There are actually 2 mechanisms in this case. One is a joint security monitoring mechanism between the DRC and Rwanda, which is concerned with this aspect that you raised. And the other one is a ceasefire monitoring mechanism between the government of DRC and M23. That's the one that we mentioned earlier that was agreed upon and signed. The protocol that we refer to was signed just a few weeks ago here in Doha. So those mechanisms, at least the first one, has started working, and we're closely involved on a daily basis. We have a very professional team working on this with the 2 parties on a daily basis. And I know also that the mechanism that was recently signed here in Doha will also be put in place and start implementing very, very soon.
الثاني من قناة العربية.
So this was the live scene in Qatar right now. You're watching a live event. Speaking on your screen is the U.S. Senior Advisor for Arab and African Affairs, Masad Boulos. And standing alongside him is Mohammed Al-Khalifi, who's the Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Qatar. We've been hearing from both gentlemen because an announcement has been made that the Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group have signed an agreement. It's described as a framework agreement for a peace deal, and it's aimed at ending the fighting in the eastern Congo. So that agreement has been signed between representatives from both sides in a ceremony in the Qatari capital, Doha. And we're going to go back to the press conference once again and listen in.
And is Mr. Trump or President Trump willing to boost his credit by ending the conflict in Sudan? Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا. طيب
Thank you very much. Regarding your question about the contribution of the United Nations and the international organizations, yes, they will play a substantial role in implementing this agreement. In fact, there are several articles in the agreement that could not be implemented without the effective contribution of the United Nations, the international organizations, but also regional organizations like the African Union. We were talking about the return of displacement, and we think that only the UNHCR will be able to implement this protocol. So that's why there will be a coordination with the different organizations to implement this agreement.
The question regarding Qatar's role, of course, Qatar plays a pivotal role in this entire process, and we work together on the Joint Oversight Committee and several other committees and mechanisms that we've put in place. And Qatar has been extremely effective, as I said earlier, and will continue to be and towards implementing this agreement. So that's on your first question. The second question regarding Sudan. Obviously, we all know the Sudan today is the world's biggest humanitarian crisis, and this is it's extremely sad. What's happening today and what has happened, especially in the last 2 or 3 weeks, is of big concern, not just to the United States and to President Trump, but to the entire world. We've been working very closely with the members of the Quad, as you know, which include the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. But in addition to our partners within the Quad, we are working with several other partners, including the State of Qatar and several others, which include also Turkey and the European Union and several other countries, including the UK and others. So we are in touch with both sides, to answer your second question as well. We are in touch with both sides very closely, and you may know that the United States had submitted a humanitarian truce. We saw that the humanitarian truce, which was for 3 months, was welcomed by both parties. However, it has not yet been finalized and has not yet been put in place. So we're working on that, and I think Secretary Rubio also spoke clearly on this a couple of days ago. We are working on this. We are working also with our partners on a bigger comprehensive plan, which falls within the spirit of the Quad joint statement that was released on September 12th, which provided a roadmap for the solution. I think we can probably more or less, all of us here can agree on the solution and the roadmap. The question is, and the main, most important aspect is the implementation of this roadmap. So we're putting together a plan that goes towards implementing this roadmap. But this can only be done in partnership with our great partners and allies, which include the State of Qatar and several others, including neighboring countries. Let's not forget that, unfortunately, whatever happens in Sudan affects so many of its neighboring countries, and many of them become involved in one way or the other. The least of which is the humanitarian aspect. I mean, the least I would say that is, of course, I'm not referring here to the war aspect, but I'm referring to the humanitarian aspect. We've seen that millions of refugees have sought refuge in neighboring countries. In Egypt alone, close to 5 million or more. In Chad, another 2 million, and so many other neighboring countries. So this suffering must end very quickly. We know that almost 25 million people in Sudan today are in dire need of humanitarian aid. They need access to food. They need access to medical care, and so many other things. And so our top priority has been to work with OCHA and several other organizations to ensure that this much-needed humanitarian aid gets to all affected areas in Sudan. So this is the absolute top priority. But we continue to work closely, and we hope to see some breakthrough in the coming weeks.
شكرا سعادتكم وشكرا جميعا
Thank you,
على
Excellencies. Thank you for being here.